Ground effect, a technology that was and well still is considered the equivalent of black magic in F1. When it was executed and when it was working correctly, it provided huge payoffs like faster cornering speeds and even taking 90-degree turns at 200 kilometers an hour. However, it came at a cost. Hi everybody, this is Trijal. This is my podcast, the Tire Smoke Podcast, and in this episode we shall be talking about the dark art of ground effect in Formula 1 cars. But first of all, what is ground effect? Well, put very simply, the underbody of the car is shaped like a wing, and that basically is called a venturi. Basically, when the air enters, there's a much wider entry, and then in the middle, the path narrows for the air, automatically making it accelerate faster through that part, and therefore creating an area of low pressure. And the air on top of the car is as usual, so that's an area of high pressure. High pressure, low pressure, push down equal to downforce down. It was first introduced on F1 cars in 1977 by Lotus boss Colin Chapman. The advantages were huge. First of all, increased cornering speeds. Second of all, unlike most overbody wing cars, which utilize like wings and stuff and bodywork to generate downforce, as you go faster with these cars, the downforce becomes more. And another thing, there's absolutely no dirty air behind the driver. Dirty air? Well, I mean, there's no chaos going on behind the driver like mini vortexes all over the place. And these mini vortexes generated from like cars that use wings and bodywork to generate downforce can seriously mess up the aerodynamics of a car behind it. So this had much cleaner air behind it and therefore allowed for closer following. This technology existed on F1 cars from a period of 1977 to 82. And in the words of Nigel Mansell himself, these cars, if the aerodynamics was done a bit more properly and if engineers were not satisfied with just sticking a bigger wing on the car, then they would have probably reached 300 miles an hour, like no joke. I even believe that really, like if an ground effect car is driven properly, then it might even manage to keep up with the F1 cars of today. But right now you must be wondering, what was the cost of this technology that I was talking about in the beginning? Well, here's the catch. First issue was not related to the car, it was related to the drivers. Well, what about them? So suppose you're going 200 kilometers an hour through, let's say, a 45-degree turn. Now, the force that will be put on your body is approximately 25 G. 25 G, well, that means you will experience almost 25 people of your weight sitting on your head. Would you like that? Not really. Especially cause, I have to remind you, these cars didn't have proper seats, you were just sitting on a metal plate. Second thing, the ground effect was completely unpredictable. Well, why? Because the ground effect heavily relied on these things called skirts on the side of the car, which are basically pieces of bodywork that sit flush with the ground, therefore sealing the path of air moving through and managing to make the ground effect work properly. Now these skirts were usually made of metal and they could move up and down, left and right to contour with different surfaces, because not every track is quite smooth, is it? Problem, because they're made of metal, okay, suppose you're going through a corner at a speed that you should not really go unless you didn't have a ground effect car. Let's just say the skirt detaches or it moves a millimeter or two up, just enough for some air to escape out of the venturi. Then, well, you're dead, because there is absolutely no downforce coming through your car because the air is not sealed anymore and can go wherever it wants. This was basically the problem, safety. So it was like, it's like a switch, you know, there's no medium, there's no in between. It's either fully on and you can go however fast you want, or it's completely off and what you're left is with is like a yellow bird. The third issue was something called porpoising. Now you remember those skirts which we talked about? Yeah, so sometimes they detach, reattach and continue doing this because of certain bumpy tracks. Now when that happens, your car has ground effect one moment, next moment it's just completely gone. So what you get is a car that's constantly bouncing around the track and jiggling, which is not what you want when you're going 200 kilometers an hour through a corner. So that was another problem, and you could never predict when the porpoising would happen because there were no tools at the time, no sensors to predict when the skirts were going to reattach and detach. Another thing, suspension and tires. Your suspension and tires would get so worn out by the ground effect that at one point they would just snap if they were not changed. Imagine going through Eau Rouge and one of your tires burst or your suspension breaks. I mean, you're going into the wall, right? So that's not ideally what you want, and these cars, mind you, at the time were not particularly safe, were they? They're not engineered for safety like modern F1 cars are. They were engineered for speed and only speed. However, this also caused a lot of fatalities in the ground effect era, which eventually led to its ban in 1982. But that's not at the end of the story for ground effect in Formula 1 cars. It was reintroduced in 2021, or at least a safer version of it was reintroduced in 2021 to allow closer following. Remember the dirty air and clean air that we talked about? Yeah, so ground effect, as you know, it minimizes the dirty air coming out of the car, allowing for closer following and maybe even slipstreaming. Now these versions, they were much safer because they did not utilize physical skirts. What they did was they manipulated the aerodynamics of the boundaries such that a vortex wall would be formed, therefore making an invisible skirt which did not rely on any flexible thing or anything. And also the venturi was a bit shortened, and so it produced a bit less downforce than its fearsome predecessors, but it's ground effect nonetheless. And as you all know, in 2026, my bad, they are going to ban ground effect once again and DRS. Since then, ground effect has been used in many other cars, like stuff in the Can-Am series and even a few road cars, but mind you, again, very few road cars. The most prominent of which I think is the McLaren F1. It uses a minor version of ground effect to make sure that the car is at least stable while cornering. So that was the end of ground effect in Formula 1. Definitely a dark art and a technology which, if used correctly, is extremely powerful. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, please like, share and subscribe. This is me, Trijal, signing off. Thank you once again.